The topic for today is Friedman restatement of quantity theory of money. Let's begin. Now, first of all, it should be very clear that it is not a theory of output. The quantity theory of money has nothing to do with output according to Friedman. It is not a theory of money income, not related. Again, not a theory of price level. So, output, money income and price level has nothing to do with our quantity theory of money. Friedman holds the view that it is basically a theory of demand for money. So what is the step here? That demand for money is related, what we are going to discuss today. Further, Friedman theory is partly Keynesian and partly non-Keynesian. Why is it not Keynesian? It is different from Keynes theory because Friedman completely ignores Keynes classification of motives for holding money. Now, when we discussed Keynes theory of money, we said that there are transaction and speculative motives for holding money. This has been completely ignored, not discussed by Friedman. That's why we say that it is different from Keynesian theory. And at certain points, it is similar to Keynesian also because Friedman generalizes Keynesian analysis of speculative demand for money by treating demand for money as a part of theory of capital or wealth. So the similarity we can see here that Friedman also treats this demand for money as a part of theory of capital or wealth, which is a little bit similar terms which Keynes discussed. Now let us discuss this theory in detail. He says that money is an asset or capital good. Very clear. Money is being treated, it is your asset. It is something which you want to have. Demand for money is demand for a consumption service. Now, why do people demand for money? That asset has its use because we will use money for consuming a service. If you want to have some service or you want to buy something, you need money. Without money, you cannot consume that particular good. You cannot avail that service. So for that purposes you need money. So demand for money is indirectly to demand a consumption service. Cash balances are demanded because it yields services to the person who holds it. Again, it is the repetition. Why do people want cash balances? Cash is in high demand because that cash only will allow you to avail the services, to avail the goods, the consumer goods and the services which you want to enjoy. Who will allow you? The cash. So cash balances are highly in demand because of these services. Now, demand for money forms a part of capital or wealth theory. Why is money demanded? To form a part of capital or wealth theory. Money is a type of capital good which is held for the services it provides. Again, it is such a capital good because money itself does not have value, but those services and goods which you want to enjoy, that money only will let you have the benefit of those goods and services. Money is there which will make use of those services and goods. So money is an asset or capital good according to Friedman. Now, factors that affect the demand for money. Now, we saw that it is a theory of demand for money. Money is everything. Money is an asset. Now, what are the factors that affect the demand for money? Supposingly, I am also demanding money. You are also demanding money. How much demand is yours and how much demand is mine? This is the point which we will discuss. So, first point is total wealth. It is the total which must be divided among various forms of assets. Estimates of total wealth are seldom available. Income is considered as an index of wealth. Hence, income is a surrogate of wealth. Surrogate here means substitute. See, now first point is total wealth. If you have so much wealth, you will demand more money. This is very simple. Now, the Ambanis will be having more demand for money than I will be having because I am not Ambani. So, why is it so? Because they have more total wealth than me. Now, my total wealth, it will be divided among various forms of assets. How much total wealth I am having, I will distribute it, right? I may be having a car. Then, if I have more wealth, I may be having a luxury car. So, my total wealth is the index that how much demand for money will I make. Now, estimates of everybody's total wealth is not easy to make out. So, what do we substitute total wealth for? We surrogate here means substitute income. Higher the income, higher the demand for money, right? This is what he's trying to say, total wealth. So, if a person is having higher total wealth, he will be having more demand for money. Second point is division of wealth between human and non-human forms. See, the major source of wealth actually is the productive capacity of human beings, which is the human wealth. Supposingly, there is one laborer, right? Now, his productive capacity is not that high as compared to an engineer. Engineer will be earning more wealth as compared to a laborer. So, we come to a conclusion that the major source of wealth is actually the productive capacity of human beings, which is considered here human wealth. But the conversion of human wealth into non-human wealth or reverse is subject to institutional constraints. Now, how much productive capacity you have is equal to your human wealth. Now that wealth has to be converted to non-human wealth, into other items, into other assets, into materialistic items. So that is subject how much you want to spend on that non-human wealth, or you want to keep cash. This division of wealth, this is called second point, division of wealth between human and non-human forms. Now this can be done by using current earnings to purchase non-human wealth. Okay? Now supposingly an engineer is earning 1 lakh rupees. If you want, he can use his current earnings, that is 1 lakh, to purchase non-human wealth. He can spend all his income. Or by using non-human wealth to finance the acquisition of skills. He can also finance the acquisition of skills. Hence, the fraction of total wealth in the form of non-human wealth is an important variable. It varies. Now, I have 1 lakh rupees. How much of that 1 lakh I will be ready to spend or I will not be ready to spend? It is a variable factor. Friedman calls the ratio of non-human wealth to human wealth as W. Further, expected rates of return on money and other assets. Now, rate of return, when you are having an investment, you will be getting a rate of return on that investment, right? So, our point is expected rate of return on money and other assets which you are holding. Now, listen, the nominal rate of return may be 0 as it is usually on currency. It's very clear. You have your currency notes. You are keeping it in your locker. You will not get any rate of return. So currency has 0 rate of return. If you invest it, that is a separate issue. But if you hold the money as currency, you won't get any rate of interest, right? Rate of return. Or the rate of return may be negative as it is sometimes on demand deposits. You know it very well. Certain demand deposits may be giving you negative rate of return as well. Subject to the net service charges, maybe the bank is taking net service charges from you. So you may be getting on demand deposits, you may be getting negative rate of return. Or it may be positive rate of return as it is on demand deposits on which interest is paid, and generally on time deposits. Time deposits, like you have made an FD for say 5 years or for 4 years, for there you will definitely get rate of return. So it can be 0, it can be negative, or it can be positive, which is there on time and demand deposits on which interest is paid. Clear? Now, the nominal rate of return on assets consists of 2 parts. Any currently paid yield or cost, such as interest on bonds, dividend on equities, and cost of storage on physical assets. So we consider that generally on other assets, the nominal rate of return, it can be any currently paid yield or cost you may be getting. On bonds, you may be getting interest. On equities, you may be getting dividends. On cost of storage of physical assets also you may get something. So this is the first part. Second is changes in the price of assets, which become specially important under the conditions of inflation or deflation. Supposingly you have an asset and the prices of that asset rise up. So you will get a higher rate of return if there is inflation, and you will get a lesser rate of return if there is deflation. Same asset will be high in demand due to inflation. Further, now there are other variables also, factors that affect demand for money. Variables other than income may affect the utility attached to the services of money, which determine liquidity proper. Besides liquidity, variables are the tastes and preferences of the wealth holders. Now, when we are considering the factors that affect the demand for money, in that it can be the tastes and preferences also of the wealth holders. Supposedly, I am going to spend money today and I am having a particular taste for say pink color. So my demand for money will be there only for pink color. Why? Because that is my taste and my preference. So the liquidity proper the liquidity also, it depends that income, other than income also, there are other services of money which will be affecting your demand for money. If the people are demanding liquidity, okay, then also the factors affecting demand of money, then liquidity will come as an important point in this. Now another variable in trading is existing capital goods by ultimate wealth holders. Now how much existing capital goods are owned by people, that will also definitely affect the demand for money. All these variables also determine the demand function for money along with other forms of wealth. These variables are denoted by U in Friedman's theory. He considers all these other variables as U. Now, see, total wealth includes all sources of income or consumable services. Total wealth means all source of income you are getting from X, Y, Z. Total it, that is called total. It is capitalized income. By income, Friedman means permanent income, which is the average expected yield on wealth during its lifetime. So average expected yield on wealth, how much are you getting on an average? How much are you expecting the yield on your wealth? That is your permanent income, and this is your capitalized income. This is the meaning of total wealth. Now see, he is taking it forms of wealth. Wealth can be held in these 5 different forms. So he has given 5 subdivisions of forms of wealth. The first is money. What does money include? Money includes currency, demand deposits, and time deposits, which yield interest on deposits. So money here means not only currency, the demand deposit and the time deposits, which give you interest. Thus, money is a luxury good, obviously. It also yields real return in the form of convenience, security to the holder, which is measured in terms of general price level, which is P. So obviously you have money, you are convenient, your life is more convenient. It is also giving security to the money holder. And in terms of general price level, we will measure it in terms of P. And the first form of wealth discussed here is money. Chali. Now bonds. What is bonds now here? Second point, bonds. Bonds mean claim to a time stream of payments that are fixed in nominal units. You purchase bonds, right? So that is the stream of payment which is fixed. Bond is considered to be a perpetual security or a consul which yields an income stream whose value is fixed in nominal terms. You are buying a bond, your income is fixed from that bond, it will yield income to you, and in nominal terms it is there fixed. Third point is equities. Equities mean claim to a time stream of payments that are fixed in real units. Here it was nominal units, here it is real units. Equity is identical to bond except that it contains a cost of living escalator so that its income stream always maintains constant purchasing power. So we are considering cost of living also in this equities, and equities will give you constant purchasing power. Even if the inflation goes up, you will get some fixed income from equities which you will not get in bonds. Bond mein wo nominal term is fixed. Fourth point is the physical goods or non-human goods are inventories of producer and consumer durable. There are physical goods, that is also a form of wealth. These physical goods are also a form of wealth, which are inventories of producer and consumer durable items. Last point is human capital. It is the productive capacity of human beings. As I told you, there is a productive capacity of a laborer and there is also the productive capacity of an engineer. So that is the fifth point, the human capital. Further, hence each form of wealth has a unique characteristic of its own and a different yield. Every wealth will give you different yield. So it has a unique characteristic, these 5 forms. Either explicitly in the form of interest, dividend or labor income, or implicitly in the form of services of money measured in terms of the general price level and inventories. So every form of wealth is unique in its own way. Now, the present discounted value of these expected income flows from these 5 forms of wealth constitute the current value of wealth, which can be represented as C. Now, these 5 forms of wealth are giving you yield, they are giving you income. Usko we are taking the discounted value of these incomes. ठीक है, which is represented as W, which is equal to Y upon R. W is the current value of the total wealth. The total wealth 5 forms, उसका total किया current value, and Y is the total flow of expected income from 5 forms of wealth. So whatever the total flow which you will get it from that income, R is the interest rate. So you take W is equal to Y upon R. This equation shows that the wealth is capitalized income. Further, money trends in United States and the United Kingdom in the year 1982 as given by Friedman. Let's study. Friedman gives the following demand function for money for an individual wealth holder. So M upon P, where M stands for the total stock of money demanded, divided by P, which is the price level. M upon P is a function of these terms. Y here stands for real income. So this M upon P depends is a function of real income. W is a fraction of wealth to non-human form, as I told you earlier. RM, third point. RM is expected nominal rate of return on money. So whatever money you have, that expected nominal rate which you will get is denoted by RM. Next is RB. RB is the expected rate of return on bonds, including the expected change in their prices. We just studied the form of wealth. Bond was 1 point. So uspe expected rate of return is called RB. Next is RE. It is expected nominal rate of return on equities, including expected changes in their prices. Further, GP, what is GP? GP is the inverse of price level. 1 upon price level into DP upon DT. This is the derivative of price to time. Expected rate of change of prices of goods and hence expected nominal rate of return on physical assets is denoted by GP, and the last is U. U is the variables other than income that may affect the utility attached to the services of money. So this is your function, demand function. Now demand function of money, it is leading to rise in the expected yield on different assets. It reduces the amount of money demanded by wealth holders. See, if the demand for money will rise, the expected yield on different rises also will rise, which will reduce the, because when your assets may expected yield rise, you will invest more, that will reduce the amount of money demanded by the wealth holder. That is that an increase in the wealth raises the demand for money. So this is how they are related, that demand function of money leads to rise in the expected yield on different assets, which reduces the amount of money demanded by the wealth holder, which leads to an increase in wealth, raises the demand for money. Now Friedman restatement of quantity of money. He says, now this is your another major portion which you should listen very carefully. The supply of money is independent of demand of money. According to Friedman, these are independent. They are not dependent on each other. Supply of money is one thing and demand for money is a separate thing. Supply of money is unstable due to the action of monetary authorities, because we don't have it in our control. That is the action of monetary authorities. And demand for money is stable because people want to hold money in cash or bank deposits, which is related in a fixed way to their permanent income. They know that my permanent income is this much. So they know how much money they want to hold in cash or bank deposits. So we confirm here that supply of money is unstable and demand for money is stable. Now, if the central bank increases the supply of money by purchasing the securities, supposingly central bank purchases the securities, so the money supply increases. Now, people who sell their securities will find that their holdings of money have increased in relation to their permanent income. Their what has increased? The holdings of money have increased in relation to permanent income, because they will be selling the other securities that central bank will buy. Now, once you sell your securities, they will think that their holdings have increased. Hence, they will spend their excess holdings of money partly on assets and partly on consumer goods and services. So, they will spend their excess holding of money on these items. Now, this spending will reduce their money balances and at the same time raise the nominal income. Their money balance will get reduced and their nominal income will get raised. A reduction in, now we studied the Increase in money supply. Now here we are saying a reduction in the supply of money by selling securities on the part of central bank. If central bank sells their securities, this will reduce the holdings of money of the buyers of securities in relation to their permanent income. This is just opposite to what was there in the previous slide. Hence, they will raise their money holdings partly by selling their assets and partly by reducing their consumption expenditure on goods and services. This will tend to reduce their nominal income. The last slide it was increasing nominal income, here reduce their nominal income. So in both the cases, demand for money remains stable. According to Friedman, a change in the supply of money causes a proportionate change in the price level or income or both. If the money supply changes, the proportionate change in price level and income or both it will happen. Given the demand for money, it is possible to predict the effect of changes in the supply of money on total expenditure in income. If you are given a particular demand for money, we will be able to predict the effect of changes in the supply of money on total, how much this change will affect the expenditure and income, we can able to predict it. If the economy is operating at less than full employment level, then increase in the supply of money will increase the output and employment with increase in total expenditure. So increase in supply of money means increase in total expenditure. But this is only possible in the short run. So here we consider one diagram where we take income on the y-axis and demand and supply of money on this horizontal axis. See, MD is the demand for money curve, which varies with income. So if your income is rising, your demand for money curve is also rising. Now MS, this MS, it is the supply curve which is perfectly inelastic to changes in income. This means that it is horizontal to y, it is parallel to, so it's parallel to y axis. Even if it is rising, it has no change. Income rises, this supply of money has no change. So it is parallel to y axis. That is why we say it is perfectly inelastic to changes in income. Now these two curves intersect at E. Here, this point. Which curve? This MD curve and this MS curve, they intersect at point E, and this determine the equilibrium income OY. And so this is the equilibrium income OY. Clear? Further, in the same diagram, if money supply rises, now see this money supply, it rises to M1, S1. This MS curve shifts to M1, S1, right? As a result, the money supply is greater than the demand for money, which raises total expenditure. Until the new equilibrium is established at E1 between MD and M1, S1 curves. So the previous equilibrium was here. But as we saw that when the supply curve M1, S1 has reached here, so it is intersecting your MD curve here. So new equilibrium is E1. This raises your income from OY, which was at the previous equilibrium. Now the new income is OY1 at this E1 equilibrium point. Clear? Now, Friedman presents the quantity theory of money as the theory of demand for money. So, the basic criteria here is all demand for money. Demand for money is assumed to depend on asset prices or relative returns and wealth or income. He shows that how a theory of stable demand for money becomes a theory of prices and output. In a way, it is related. This demand for money will take you to a theory of prices and output. A discrepancy between nominal quantity of money demanded and nominal quantity of money supplied will be evident primarily in attempted spending. So, the difference here in the nominal quantity of money demanded and the nominal quantity of money supplied, how will it be shown? It will be shown in the spending. As the demand for money changes in response to changes in its determinants, we just saw that on what factors does the demand for money depends. It follows that a substantial change in prices and nominal income are almost invariably the result of changes in the nominal supply of money. See, we saw that the demand for money depends upon what all factors we just saw. So, the changes in supply, changes in prices or the nominal income, they are actually the result of changes in the nominal supply of money as it was just shown in the diagram. Here we come to the end of the article. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Please let me know in the comment section whether you understood it nicely. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay blessed.